Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends, and thanks so much for dropping by the Horror Zone. I hope everyone's doing well. Today's video is going to be a very special video. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while now. I initially talked about this series probably about 6-7 years ago on this channel. Not real happy with some of the older videos that I've done, and just recently I started revisiting some of these episodes. The show ran from 2002 to 2007. It starred one of my heroes, still one of my heroes from growing up, Anthony Michael Hall, who I grew up admiring in movies like National Lampoon's Vacation, of course 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science. He was also in the movies like Out of Bounds, Johnny Be Good, Edward Scissorhands. Seemed to sort of fall off in the 90s. He of course did movies like 6 Degrees of Separation with Will Smith. He was also in one of my favorite episodes from Tales from the Crypt. But in the early 2000s, he was cast in a movie called The Pirates of Silicon Valley, where he played Bill Gates, and he played against Noah Wyle, who was cast as Steve Jobs. It was from there that the creator of the Dead Zone series that I'm actually talking about today, that's where Michael Piller, he saw him in that role and figured he would be the perfect person to be the lead in this new series based on the Stephen King novel. Of course, it was already adapted for screen at that point by David Cronenberg, starring Christopher Walken in the early 80s, 1983 I believe is when that movie came out. And like I said, this show debuted in 2002 on the USA Network. I believe, and I could be wrong, but originally it was supposed to premiere on UPN, Paramount Network, and they had to actually reshoot the pilot episode, Wheel of Fortune, because one of the main characters in it, the Gene Purdy character, was originally played by Michael Moriarty, did not come back for the reshoots. They actually cast David Ogden Stiers to play that character. So they had to reshoot a few elements in order to get the show going when it was greenlit. Pretty much what the Dead Zone deals with is you have the character of John Smith. Book and in the movie he was a English teacher. In the series he's a science teacher. He's engaged to Sarah Bracknell. One night he's in a horrible accident and he wakes up 6 years later from a coma and finds out that his fiancée has moved on, that she's married to the local sheriff, the Walt Bannerman character, and that he has this second sight now that's triggered by a touch called the Dead Zone. Right off the bat, I just want to say that I think this show is beautifully cast. Right out the gate, I loved all of the principal actors. I think Nicole DeBauer did a great job as Sarah. I'm a huge fan of Chris Bruno as Walt Bannerman. Loved his character right out the gate. Next to Anthony Michael Hall, who just commands in every way as Johnny Smith right out the gate, was John L. Adams, who played Bruce Lewis, his physical therapist, and would become Johnny's kind of partner in crime as he's solving, you know, mysteries and things like that as the show progressed. Huge fan of John L. Adams and huge fan of Anthony Michael Hall. Both of them are what made the show so special and important to me. As you can see here, I put a little table here in the room. I usually don't have this here, but this is all of the DVD sets. The show ran for 6 seasons. And like I said, I was a huge fan of Anthony Michael Hall. He was always somebody that I identified with because he usually played somebody that was kind of an outcast, especially in Breakfast Club and 16 Candles and even Weird Science. And he was somebody that I just idolized the guy. I loved his haircut in Weird Science. I remember I tried to have my haircut like that when I was 12, 13 years old. And even in some of the smaller roles that he did, I would follow his work in movies like I said, 6 Degrees of Separation, which I thought he was great in. I'm glad to see that he's going to be in the new Halloween film, Halloween Kills. I'm very excited. I'm mad that I got to wait a whole year to see it, but I just wish that guy nothing but success. He's always been one of my favorite actors of all time. His performance as Johnny Smith, I mean, not only did he act as the main character, but as Johnny gets the second sight, he would take on the personalities of other characters. But it was really interesting to show Anthony Michael Hall's growth as an actor, how he could take on these different personas, and it was seamless. I think he did a brilliant job in it. He was also a producer on the show, and he directed one of my favorite episodes in season 3. And one of the elements of the show that I always loved was Johnny's cane, of course, because he's in a car accident. When he gets out, he has a cane that he uses to help him get around. So I remember reading an interview that the cane and the trench coat were kind of homages to Christopher Walken's portrayal of the John Smith character from the movie. And I was always fascinated by the cane. Now, this is not the exact cane, of course, that he had in the show, but I found one. I got this back in like 2003, 2004 off eBay, and I can't remember what I paid for it, but I always thought it looked kind of like, it's just a black cane right here, you can see. But thought it would be kind of cool to bring it out. I shined it up a little bit. So yeah, this was something that Johnny Smith had. I just thought it was a really excellent kind of extension of his character, and also a tribute to Christopher Walken and his amazing performance in the film. Another thing that I was drawn to, again, Bruce Lewis, the John L. Adams character, had a ring in it that I really loved. There was a point where there was a Dead Zone website where you could write letters to the cast, and I remember wrote a letter to Anthony Michael Hall several times, and wrote one to John L. Adams, and John L. Adams actually answered my question. During seasons 3, 4, and 5, Bruce wears a blue ring, and I couldn't tell, it was like a blue stoned ring, and it was a lapis ring. Now, you probably can't see it too well there. A lot of people think this is a mood ring. But this is a ring that I've had. I actually had this ring made when I found out what kind of ring it was. I just love the blue stone, and but I had this ring made in 2008, and I still wear it pretty regularly. Actually love it, and again, it's something else like the cane. It's something else that takes me back to that amazing show, The Dead Zone. That was so fantastic. I just really loved a lot of emotion in the show, because of course, John wakes up, his fiance is remarried, but on top of that, you also have the fact that she was actually pregnant with Johnny's child when he was in the coma. So Walt is raising Johnny's son, and they've never told JJ is what they call him. So that was an element that was kind of in the first 2.5 seasons. So you just really feel for John and what he's going through. I mean, he's not a teacher anymore. He lost his fiance, and now he's tortured by this new power that he has. And you just watch as he hones it through the 6 seasons and uses it for good. And along the way, there's little stories here and there, just like little one-offs. And there's this one, but the main focus of the show, the main story arc, is involving Greg Stilson. And a lot of people that remember the movie, that was played by Martin Sheen. Here it's played by Sean Patrick Flanery from the Boondock Saints. And you have this politician that's rising to power, and John gets this vision off of him seeing a nuclear holocaust. He sees Washington, D.C. surrounded in flames, and that is kind of what caps off season 1 and sort of sets the road for the rest of the series. Every week, every Sunday when it aired, I was glued to my TV watching it. I even participated on the message board that they had for the show. That's when I found out about toxic fan culture firsthand, when I got attacked for having an opinion about some of the shows, and maybe I even got a little bit too aggressive with some people, but I was really passionate about the show. And after that, I never really liked message boards, because I just thought at first it was just a place you went to and talked about the show. Even if you had different disagreements about what the show dealt with, you still could get together as adults and have a discussion. And I found out very early on that you couldn't do that. So yeah, I sort of got a big taste of fan culture pretty early on, because this is going back to like 2004 when I was participating in that those boards. And I even still have my handle. I called myself Dead Zone Rocks. It's funny to go back and think about that stuff now. But what I thought I'd do today is talk a little bit about my favorite episodes from each season. And I'm not going to go into great detail because that would take forever. I hated the way the show went out. Season 6 is a big disappointment for me. They gutted the cast, and a lot of my favorite actors weren't in much of season 6. And it also kind of veered off course from what had been established in the previous 5 seasons of what Johnny's quest was, and it turned it back into kind of this love story element, and it just didn't work. And I was surprised that that was the route they went, because it was kind of like it was hanging on by, even though the Dead Zone was still doing well in the ratings, the powers that be were talking about, how much it cost to make the show. You could tell in some interviews that I saw Anthony Michael Hall give that he wasn't really happy with, I could just tell he wasn't really happy with the people over at the network. And I was surprised that they went the route they did, because it almost created more obstacles than sort of wrapping up the story that had been established. And so when season 6 ends, it actually ended on something that I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I wonder where they're going to go with season 7. And then they canceled the show, and we never had that resolution. Even when I think back to it now and I watch some of these episodes, so there were so many great story arcs established that never really resolved themselves. And I think a lot of it had to do with Michael Piller passing away. he had cancer, and his son Sean took over. Not to say that he did a bad job, but I could tell that the tone of the show changed once Michael died, and I felt like the mystique of Johnny and his abilities, there was some things that were kind of a little too lighthearted in the 4th and 5th seasons. Even though there was elements of that in the first 3 seasons, I felt like they kind of veered off course with sort of the mystique of who Johnny was and the powers that he had. Until The Walking Dead showed up, this was my favorite television show of all time. Because I had 6 years with it, so, you know, it was an old friend, and it's been really fun going back and revisiting it. And yeah, I miss it a lot, and I keep hoping that one day maybe we'll get a television movie. I know the show's been off the air for 13 years, but it would be nice to have a resolution to this storyline. I started thinking back to like The Incredible Hulk and how that was kind of canceled at the last minute, but then they did 3 Incredible Hulk movies to kind of wrap up that story. It would be nice to see them do that with The Dead Zone, because I think it's well deserved. I think it's a show that should be talked about. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's in my top 3 of favorite shows ever. So now I'm just going to break out my favorite episodes of the show's 6-year run, season by season. So season 1, of course, you have to love the first episode, which I would say that they're tied, because it's Wheel of Fortune and What It Seems. After 6 years in a coma following a near-fatal car accident, John Smith awakens to find that he has the gift of second sight and uses the psychic powers to help solve a serial murder case. Next one for me in season 1 was Enemy Mind. While trying to rescue a runaway teen, Johnny Smith is exposed to mind-altering drugs that have a uniquely adverse effect on his brain. Next one for me was Here There Be Monsters. Johnny Smith's life is threatened when he's charged with witchcraft in a small New England town. And then my last absolute favorite episode of season 1 was Destiny, which was the season finale. When Johnny Smith's prediction of a tragic fire comes true, the incident brings him unwanted media coverage, as well as attention of Greg Stilson, a very ambitious young candidate for Congress. And here is the box set for season 1. Sorry about the glare there. I'll put it, it's white, so the light is kind of drowning it out. But I bought this the day it came out. And this came out, I think this came out summer of 2003. Right before the second half of season 2 aired. This is, you know, they used to put out DVD sets like this, so it's got all the discs. It also had a newspaper, and I have the episodes here. So yeah, this set was very expensive when it first came out. I think I've seen it like really cheap now, secondhand. But it's a great first season. It really establishes the show amazingly. For season 2, Valley of the Shadow, which was the premiere episode, Johnny is still shaken by his Armageddon visions and growing increasingly obsessed with Stilson, whom he's secretly investigating. Next episode of mine is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite of the series, and that was Precipitate. When Johnny is injured and infused with a blood product stemming from 6 different people, he begins having visions through the donor's eyes. Next one for me was Scars, Johnny's decision to join the re-election campaign of Stilson, Sean Patrick Flannery's chief opponent, Harrison Fisher, Gerald McRaney, has unintended consequences. Misbegotten was my next favorite. Johnny is kidnapped by 3 young women who demand his help in solving a murder mystery from the past. Next episode for me was Playing God. This would star Ali Sheedy, who Anthony Michael Hall acted alongside in The Breakfast Club. When Johnny is reunited with 2 close friends from high school, one of whom is awaiting a heart transplant, Lachlan Monroe, he is tormented by a vision of the other, Ali Sheedy, becoming the donor. Next episode, another one of my favorite episodes of the show, was Zion, because this one was one of the first ones that focused solely on Bruce. The death of Bruce Lewis's father, Pastor David Lewis, Lewis Gossett Jr., leads Bruce on an amazing journey down the road not taken. Next episode for me, The Storm. When Johnny is caught in a deadly storm, he is forced to come to terms with his own destiny in order to save those he loves. And then my final favorite episode of season 2, which is an amazing season, is Visions. Johnny sets out to discover the secret of a mysterious man played by Frank Whaley, who appears to be stalking him, but actually has a life-changing message for Johnny. And season 2 was kind of in a slipcover, and I remember, like, at the time, John L. Adams and Anthony Michael Hall were touring around to different Best Buys where they were signing these, and they never came up here, and I was so disappointed. But this one, again, very much like season 1, really nice. Still got like a lot of stuff that came with it. Here, I keep everything nice in my collection, but let's see, this, and let's see. Excellent season. Season 2 is so amazing. Okay, now we're on to Season 3. Favorite episodes of Season 3. The first and second episode, which was one long episode, Finding Rachel, Part 1 and 2. Johnny becomes the prime suspect in a case involving a missing woman and is confronted by her sister, Sarah Winter, who clamors for his arrest. And then in Part 2, following his arrest for the murder of a young volunteer for the Stilson campaign, Johnny struggles to persuade the victim's sister to help him find the real killer. Next one, Cold Hard Truth. This would guest star the amazing Richard Lewis as kind of like a Howard Stern type radio show host. Johnny becomes involved with an abusive shock jock, and in the process forges a new relationship with his son JJ. And this one was actually directed by Anthony Michael Hall. Total Awareness. Johnny is the next episode I really loved. Johnny and a rebellious young woman with a strange gift for numbers team up to expose a corrupt government agency using a massive intelligence gathering program that can assess every surveillance network in the world. Next one I loved was Looking Glass. Johnny fights to prevent identical twins from manipulating him and his visions to commit the perfect murder. This one was another of my favorite episodes, Shadows. When Johnny foresees the death of someone very close to him, he must confront his inner demons before they push him to the brink of murder. And then Tipping Point would be the final episode of Season 3. As problems with his dead zone become life-threatening, Johnny must decide whether to have brain surgery, knowing he might lose his psychic abilities that may help prevent Armageddon. And Season 3 was very similar to Season 2, except it was much thinner. This is when they started changing the way that media was released. It's a lot more condensed than the other two seasons. But still, I like this, the way that it's put together, and one of the best seasons. Now we're on to Season 4. And Season 4, even though I liked it, it's not my favorite season. There was some changes made that I wasn't crazy about. Season 4 begins with Broken Circle, which was originally supposed to be the finale of Season 3. It was supposed to be called Tipping Point 2, but they redid it and changed the ending. And I really wish they would have gone with Tipping Point 2. I think it would have been better. Broken Circle is a good episode, but when I saw like some of the cut footage, I really wish they would have gone the original route. But in Broken Circle, Johnny fights to stop Rebecca from killing Greg Stilson, whom she believes is responsible for her sister's murder. Next episode I really enjoyed was Heroes and Demons. An autistic boy seeks Johnny's help to save his father, a tough cop awaiting execution for the murder of a federal DEA agent. Next episode I enjoyed was Grains of Sand. Johnny faces a difficult decision after saving an infant from a dangerous ring of human traffickers. Next one was Vanguard. Johnny must discover why his reunion with a former student, Danny Masterson, whom is now a top biomedical researcher, triggers his vision of Stilson and a future Armageddon. Then the finale, Saved. In a bizarre turn of events, Stilson begs Johnny to help him investigate the disappearance of his girlfriend, Miranda. And then they did a bonus episode that year, A Very Dead Zone Christmas, which they aired around the Christmas season of 2005. When a female psychic, Alex Sinclair, who I loved, Jennifer Finnegan, pays Johnny a surprise Christmas visit, the two work together to solve the mystery of one very lost and confused Santa. And again, much like Season 3, this was a much smaller presentation in terms of how they released this set. Again, I still have the card in it and everything. Right there. Yeah, not the best season, probably one of the lesser seasons for me, but still lots of good episodes. Now we're on to Season 5, one of my favorite seasons. First episode, Forbidden Fruit. Johnny races to find a way to stop the wedding of Miranda Ellis and Greg Stilson, while a political crisis develops that brings Stilson one step closer to the White House. One of my favorite episodes is Independence Day. This was actually directed by Walt Bannerman himself, Mr. Chris Bruno. A lighthearted 4th of July road trip turns into a nightmare after Johnny is hit with a vision of Bruce dying in a car crash. It's a fantastic episode, one of the best. Next episode, Panic. When Johnny, JJ, and a neighborhood teen are trapped inside the Smith home by two ruthless killers, Johnny's visions of the past help them evade capture. Next episode that I loved was Symmetry. Johnny has trouble keeping track of his identity when visions from an attacker, a victim, and a rescuer confuse the psychic sense of reality. Next episode is Vortex. That I loved was Vortex. Johnny is brought before a congressional panel led by Greg Stilson after infiltrating a cult to prevent a Waco-like catastrophe. And then Revelations. This one was directed by Bruce Lewis himself, Mr. John L. Adams. The arrival of a mysterious young woman from Reverend Purdy's past raises new questions for Johnny about the minister's character. And then the final episode of Season 5 was The Hunting Party. Johnny is witness to Malcolm Janus's secret plot to assassinate the vice president in order to move Stilson one step closer to the White House. And Season 5, very similar to the previous 2 seasons. Here. You guys still have the thing in there. Little card. This is one I actually really love this season, and it makes Season 6 so much more heartbreaking because this one really set up some really good arcs that they could have gone with. And now we are on to the final season, Season 6. Season 6 is where a lot of things changed for the show. Number one, they wrote off a lot of characters, and I really feel like it just completely took the heart out of the show. The first episode, Heritage, kicked off the season. Johnny is struck by visions of friends in danger, but is unable to prevent a shocking tragedy which will change his life forever. In that episode, Walt Bannerman is killed. Malcolm Janus, who is part of the organization that is grooming Stilson for the White House, is killed as well. Bruce takes a job somewhere else and leaves Cleves Mills, the town that the show is set in, and Reverend Purdy goes on an exodus after what happens to Malcolm Janus and Walt. And it really put the show on a downer. It also, with Walt out of the picture, tried to rekindle the relationship between Sarah and Johnny, which had kind of been solved in an episode in Season 3 called Speak Now. And it really just made this season hard to get through. Next episode for me that I enjoyed was Drift. This is going way into the 10th episode of the season, so as you can see, from episode 1 to episode 10, wasn't really a big fan. But in this episode, Bruce comes back. During a visit with Bruce, Johnny is struck with a vision of a valuable horse being stolen on the eve of a big horse race. This was kind of cool to see Bruce and Johnny reunite. Again, their relationship was the heart of the show for me. So when Bruce left at the beginning of the season and only showed up for one more episode, it just gutted the show for me. That relationship was so key. And there's things, especially in the episode Visions in Season 2, that really established, and Zion as well, really established that Bruce needed to be there for Johnny. And there's something that there is a reason that Bruce leaves willingly in episode 1 besides a new job, episode 1 of Season 6. But it just didn't work for me, and I don't know why that was the decision that they made, because it really just ruined the rest of the show for me. Next episode, Exile, was episode 11. In jail for a crime he didn't commit, Johnny risks everything to run from the law and try to prevent his psychic friend Alex Sinclair from being murdered. It was nice to see that character come back as well. And like I said, the latter half of Season 6 got better. Episode 12, Ambush. Johnny and Sheriff Turner's lives are on the line as they pursue 2 separate crime investigations that lead them both back to Walt. And then the final episode of the show, the final episode of the season, Denouement. This, in the thrilling series finale, Johnny's vision of Walt's lead to a shocking discovery about Johnny's dad as secrets from the past are revealed. This really was an amazing end to the season, not the series. It established so many places they could go into the next season. It made Stilson a villain again. They had kind of downplayed him to not being as much of a villain this season. And I was really upset with this amazing end to the season setup and then Season 7 not happening. Also, Tom Skerritt, who played Bannerman in the Dead Zone David Cronenberg movie, comes back to play Johnny Smith's dad, which I thought was really cool. And the secrets that are revealed in this were amazing. It also brought David Ogden Stiers back for one episode. He was only in the first episode and the last episode of this season, which again sucked ass. I don't know why the powers that be made the decisions that they did, but they really ruined a great show by doing so. But again, this is the final season. And as you can see, it has Purdy on the last disc, and he's barely in the season. And I really didn't like Sarah this season, and this was kind of what soured me. And not so much on the actress. I didn't like what they did with the character. And I didn't like the fact that they killed off Walt. I didn't like that Bruce left. The only good thing they did in that season was they finally had a good actor to play Johnny's son. The first 2 seasons, the son, no disrespect to these child actors, they were terrible. The kid that actually, Connor Prince, I believe is what his name was. I could be wrong. I'll put it down below if I got it wrong. But he was amazing, and he was the best part of season 6. Yeah, so it's heartbreaking how the show ended. But I also, just on a last note, I have the soundtrack. This was, I don't remember where I got this from, but it actually has the New Year's Prayer, which was the original theme for the show, the opening of the show for the first 3 seasons. They changed it in seasons 4 and 5, and then in season 6 they didn't really even have an opening. And then there's a couple of good songs on here. Anthony Michael Hall sings Hallelujah. Yeah, I'm glad to have this along with my other Dead Zone items. And yeah, that's going to be it, fellow fiends. So thank you so much for watching and hearing me talk about one of my favorite television shows of all time. This was a lot of fun. Let me know if you guys are fans of the Dead Zone. Leave me some messages down below. Were you a fan of the show? Did you watch it when it aired from 2002 to 2007? Thanks so much again for watching, and I promise there's some great horror content coming real soon. Take it easy. Stay scared as always. Peace. I want to thank everyone for taking this time to drop by the Horror Zone. It really means a lot to me that people are supporting what I do here. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button down below. I upload videos at least once or twice a week. It would really mean a lot if people would spread the word about this channel. This is a passion of mine. I love the horror genre, and I'm really happy to share my love of it with all of you. So thanks so much again for checking it out, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy. Peace.